Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daley, your official law enforcement translator. What does that mean? You know, my objective with this channel is to do law enforcement related reviews. And tonight we're gonna dive into the Ahmaud Arbery case again. We're gonna get a little deeper, but more specifically, we're gonna talk about and dissect the actual law that's gonna be in question on this case. This is why the prosecution team has such a massive arsenal against the defendants. So let's talk about what is Ahmaud Arbery being accused of. He's being accused of breaking into homes, more specifically, that home that was under construction, right? I believe it was open, so anyone could walk in, but technically that's not breaking into anything, and that's not burglary, and burglary is a felony. There's a couple things that the McMichaels and Brian are gonna have a hard time trying to prove their case, right? Their case is self-defense. That's a very, very unique thing to claim, and you have to make sure everything aligns for that to apply. I know personally that this was not a self-defense case, and I personally believe that the McMichaels are wrong. The McMichaels and Brian are wrong, and they should be punished with the full extent of the law. Because here's what happened, and we're gonna pull up the law here, we're gonna run through it, I'm gonna point out Georgia law so you guys can understand what's taking place. In order to apply burglary, you have to force your way into a home, either forced or unforced, unlawfully go into a home with the intent to commit a felony. You have to go in the home to commit a felony or a theft in order for burglary to apply. This does not apply in this situation, right, at all. So we already know off the bat that Ahmaud Arbery did not burglarize the house that they are saying he burglarized for the reason why they actually chased after him. Even on that day of the incident, Gregory McMichael himself never witnessed anything that day. What did he say? He stated that he observed Ahmaud Arbery running through the neighborhood at a high speed that to him appeared to be suspicious. He was running too fast. That's what alerted him. And he remembered Ahmaud Arbery from other videos that he may have watched. He said he looks like a guy that has been in the neighborhood before and doing things that they felt were suspicious. Now, that is Travis's justification to chasing after Ahmaud Arbery, along with his son and along with Brian. That is all that he had. His previous interpretation of what he thought Ahmaud was doing, and then the fact that he saw him running down the street. That's it. That's all he had to go off of. That's all his evidence, right? Some might argue, the defense might argue that, okay, maybe the McMichaels had prior knowledge because that's what's needed in order to make a citizen's arrest. You had to have had prior knowledge of an offense that occurred. There's one interesting caveat to a citizen's arrest that people are not talking about for Georgia law. It has to be a felony. You have to have witnessed, right, a felony or known of a felony. That, I believe, is going to be one of the biggest hurdles for the defense to climb over. Let's look at the law. This is Georgia law. This is 17-4-60, arrest by private citizen. What does it say? A private citizen may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. Did he have immediate knowledge? One would argue possibly he may have had immediate knowledge. Okay, but what was that knowledge that he had? Can he verify that, right? The evidence, the burden of proof is going to be on them to prove what knowledge, show us what knowledge you had. You better hope these videos you keep talking about actually look and is actual Ahmaud Arbery. Then we have, if the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Now, here's the question. Was it a felony? No, it wasn't. And on that day and at that time, they didn't witness anything. They didn't witness anything. According to Gregory's statement to the initial officer that responded on scene, he stated, I was just out in front of my boat doing some things. I think he said boat. He was just out in the front yard and he saw Ahmaud hauling down the street at a high rate of speed. He said it looked suspicious, and he recognized, oh, I remember this guy. And me and my son tried to stop him before. He reached in his pants, so we thought he had something. That's why we got our guns. That was his second justification for why they felt they needed guns to approach Ahmaud Arbery. So what's the other problem? The other problem is that at some point in their mind, they felt that they were justified in chasing after Ahmaud Arbery, but they weren't chasing after him in order to help the police out. They wanted to capture him. They wanted to detain him on their own. Even after they contacted the police, they still engaged, right? But it was the way they did it, right? They chased them down, 2 trucks, the McMichaels and then Brian in his truck. They aggressively began cutting him off, preventing him from getting away, preventing his way of travel. And this is why they're being charged with false imprisonment, right? There was no legitimate reason for them to do that. They don't have the authority to. They were out of their league, right? Now, and here's the part that is bringing a lot of attention, right? The moment they had drove past Ahmaud Arbery and they posted up down the street and they waited for him. So in this profession, we call it lying in wait. I mentioned it on a previous video, lying in wait. Essentially, it's when you as a suspect are trying to you're premeditating your actions, right? You're saying, okay, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna post up here, and I'm going to ambush this person. And that's exactly what happened, right? They drove past them, they parked the vehicle at the end of the street, knowing he's gonna run into them. They get out, Travis gets out of the driver's seat with a shotgun, and he has it at a ready position. And then, so what does Ahmaud Arbery do, right? He's looking at that threat, and then he goes around the truck and runs around the truck to get away. And then what happens? So then Travis McMichael sees that Ahmaud Arbery is going around towards the passenger side of the truck. And what does he do? He goes around to try to cut him off again. But all the while, he's still brandishing that shotgun, right? He's presenting that to him. What would the average regular person do? And I said this in the previous video. If Ahmaud Arbery was a woman, would this have been acceptable? Would this behavior from these 3 men have been okay? And the answer is no, it wouldn't have been. No one would have felt that this was okay, right? This was not okay. You guys, at no point at any time that what they did was okay. They went too far. They went too far. It's one thing to follow, keep a visual, relay that message to law enforcement, and it's another thing to hunt people down. So then here's the last piece, the most important piece, is the self-defense. This is the McMichaels' strongest argument that they can make. It's the argument they made when the officers initially made contact with them, that they were defending themselves. As an officer, when we have situations similar to this, how do we look at a self-defense scenario? In my personal opinion, this was not self-defense, and I'm gonna tell you why. Anytime we have 2 people engaging in what we believe to be as mutual combat, right? They're mutually engaged in fighting, because as we arrive on the scene, we just see 2 people beat up, we see a person stabbed, shot, whatever. What questions do we ask as an officer? I'm gonna tell you what I would ask. First, I start off with what happened, right? Give me the story, give me the rundown, turn by turn. I assure you, if I was investigating that, they would have been in handcuffs before the day had ended. And I'm gonna tell you why. When it comes to mutual combat, what officers look for, at least what I look for in investigating, is who is the primary aggressor. See, this is key, okay? Well, who initiated the contact? How was the contact initiated? Could it have been avoided? Who violated whose space, right? The thing that I would be looking at is, okay, the gun was brandished. The moment you show someone a weapon, you completely change the dynamic of the situation. In a way, you can say that Travis actually put himself in a position to be harmed, to where he had no choice but to shoot another person simply because he posed a threat to the other person. The true self-defense was on Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery was not the primary aggressor. Ahmaud Arbery was followed, he was chased, he was aggressively cut off, and he tried to avoid them as much as possible. They took guns out, pointed guns towards him, approached him with guns. They went and made contact with him twice, physically, person to person, twice. And then the second time he was shot, and he was shot 3 times. Let's look at the law. What does the law say? What does Georgia law say in reference to self-defense? Let's pull it up. This is the justification and excuse use of force in defense of self or others. This is Georgia annotated 16-321. For those of you who want to check it out, this is the code. So we're going to go down and look at what it says. Use of force in defense of self or others. Now, a person is justified in threatening or using force against another when and to the extent that he or she reasonably believes that such threat or force is necessary to defend himself or herself or a third person against such others' imminent use of unlawful force. Now let's break that down. A person is justified of using force to protect themselves or another person. The McMichaels were the only ones at the scene who had the means, the ability to actually carry out lethal force. So for you to use lethal force on him and then say it's self-defense, what are you defending yourself from? Where's the threat? How did the threat in your mind you perceived escalated so much that you felt that you needed to take the life of another person? Well, the question, a lot of people say, well, he fought over the gun. Yeah, I guess you could easily say that Ahmaud probably felt that he had no option. He was defending himself from someone who was pointing a shotgun at him and who had just finished chasing him. Mind you, is it possible that Ahmaud didn't believe that he committed a crime? And this is what makes this very dangerous. And this is why this law is very, very dangerous, because when you tell someone about stand your ground and when you talk to someone about citizen's arrest, you need to understand the law. You need to know what you're doing. You should have witnessed the actual crime within itself. You killed another person and it had nothing to do with you. It wasn't even your property. It wasn't your property. You weren't protecting anybody. You know, it's different if you see someone who needs saving versus someone who went into a vacant building. So let's look. There's more to the law that's very interesting that I want to point out. Let's take a look at the rest of it. If we scroll down, it talks about when a person is not justified. Subsection B, a person is not justified in using force under the circumstances in subsection A if he initially provokes the use of force against himself with the intent to use such force as an excuse to inflict bodily harm upon the assailant. Provoking an action to where now you have to use force in order to protect yourself. You put yourself in harm's way. You don't like the outcome of what you did, and now you want to use lethal force and say that you're defending yourself. No, the key is the McMichaels and Brian were primary aggressors towards Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery did his best to avoid them, and then the second encounter left him no choice, and he wrestled with Travis over the shotgun and ultimately was shot and killed over it. So those are the elements to the use of force, right, that need to apply in order for someone to use the justification of use of force. And in this instance, it does not apply to the McMichaels. And not only that, the actual owner of that vacant home doesn't want to press charges. And at best, you have Ahmaud Arbery on trespassing, which is a misdemeanor. But again, you still need the owner, the victim, to want to press charges. With no victim, you have no crime. The McMichaels have made a complete fool of themselves along with Brian. And here's the thing. Unfortunately, a man's life was taken because of someone's overzealous actions. Where's their problem? No felony, right? It wasn't witnessed, right? They harassed Ahmaud Arbery. They followed him. They chased him aggressively. They provoked a situation They were primary aggressors. They brandished a firearm towards him. And then on top of that, you have Gregory McMichael, who stands up and tells the officers that I would have shot him myself. Luckily, Travis shot him, or I was gonna shoot him myself. The prosecution team has a plethora of evidence against the McMichaels and against Brian. Come Monday, we are going to see the outcome of a very crazy and chaotic trial. And the nation will be watching, and I'll be watching, and I'll be updating you guys as well. But those are the laws. These are the key elements to this case. I want you guys to stay tuned to this channel, stay tuned to the case as well. As you know, it's gonna be all over the news. But at least you guys have a deeper understanding of which laws apply in this case, what Georgia law looks like. When you have a second, you can go back through it if you would like. I'll leave the links in the description. Let me know your thoughts. Do you believe that the McMichaels were justified? Do you believe that the law supports their actions? I would love to hear what you think. Let's talk it out in the comment section. I'm all for it. And if you guys have any videos you want me to look into, please send them my way. Thank you again. And if you haven't already, please join the channel. I've gotten some new subscribers. Thank you again, you guys, for your support. And please share this video. A lot of people are unaware about the law here in Georgia and how it works. So I think this will definitely kind of give them an eye opener. All right. Love to get your feedback. Again, thank you. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please, looking forward to it. And until the next video, thank you and God bless.